The world is on edge like never before as U.S. President Donald Trump prepares to step back onto the United Nations stage amid escalating conflicts in Gaza and Ukraine. A moment charged with tension, uncertainty, and high stakes. But here's where it gets controversial. Trump's return comes after a turbulent first term, marked by cuts to U.S. funding for the UN and skepticism toward multilateral cooperation, raising questions about the future role of this global institution. And this is the part most people miss: how diplomacy at the UN balances fragile peace efforts amid deep geopolitical divisions and humanitarian crises. Next week in New York, leaders from around the globe will convene for the 80th UN General Assembly, a 6-day event featuring nearly 150 heads of state and government, along with numerous ministers. Among them, President Trump will command the spotlight, delivering his speech amid worsening wars and diplomatic deadlocks. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres framed the summit's context with stark honesty. "We are gathering in turbulent, even uncharted waters." He emphasized the growing geopolitical rifts, ongoing conflicts, surging impunity, and a planet facing environmental peril, all while international cooperation strains under pressures unlike any witnessed before. Trump's history at the UN is a complex one. During his previous term, he significantly reduced America's financial contributions to the organization, withdrew from the Human Rights Council, cut funding for the Palestinian Refugee Agency UNRWA, and pulled the U.S. out of UNESCO. He also announced plans to exit the Paris Climate Agreement and the World Health Organization. These moves have sparked widespread debate about America's commitment to global partnerships and the impact on humanitarian efforts. Guterres has responded by striving to cut UN costs and boost operational efficiency, underscoring the challenges of maintaining global peace and aid amidst shrinking resources. International Crisis Group's UN Director, Richard Gowan, notes Trump thrives on the attention the General Assembly draws. He enjoys the spotlight and is expected to highlight his administration's accomplishments. Gowan remarks, speculating Trump might even claim a case for the Nobel Peace Prize once again. Trump often praises the UN's potential, but insists it needs to get its act together, a continuation of his previous wariness towards multilateral institutions. He has criticized the UN for failing to support his peace initiatives, a criticism echoing his broader skepticism about the effectiveness of global governance. However, Guterres offers a pragmatic perspective. While the UN Security Council holds the unique power to impose sanctions, gridlock has stalled action on Gaza and Ukraine due to vetoes by the US and Russia. The United States has both carrots and sticks, Guterres pointed out. If leveraged wisely, these tools could help shepherd peace processes towards success. This nuanced divide of authority highlights a key challenge. Peace depends not just on dialogue, but on real incentives and consequences. A dynamic constantly tested in New York's diplomatic halls. This General Assembly arrives at a critical juncture. The Israel-Hamas conflict in Gaza nears its 2-year mark, spawning one of the most severe humanitarian disasters of modern times. Famine warnings from global hunger monitors warn of worsening conditions expected by month's end. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who faces charges from the International Criminal Court for alleged war crimes, charges Israel vehemently rejects, is scheduled to speak on Friday. His recent ground assault on Gaza City has escalated violence further, with Israel's UN ambassador Danny Danon asserting the war will not conclude until all hostages are freed. Before the Assembly's speeches begin, a high-profile summit hosted by France and Saudi Arabia aims to breathe new life into the elusive two-state solution between Israel and the Palestinians. Several nations, including Australia, Belgium, Britain, Canada, and France, have pledged varying degrees of support to formally recognize a Palestinian state, though often with caveats. Notably absent in person is Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, who will attend via video after the U.S. Israel's staunch ally denied him a visa, sparking criticism over America's diplomatic stance. Palestinian UN envoy Riyad Mansour aptly describes Palestine as the huge elephant in the General Assembly room, signaling the weight the issue carries this session. Meanwhile, the ongoing war in Ukraine remains a grim focal point. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskiy and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov are scheduled to address the assembly, though Russian President Vladimir Putin traditionally skips this event. The UN Security Council is expected to hold meetings addressing both Ukraine and Gaza, yet diplomats express little optimism for breakthroughs due to entrenched positions. Another crucial issue under the international spotlight is Iran's nuclear program. Tehran faces potential reinstatement of all UN Security Council sanctions on September 28th, heightening tensions further. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian and Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi will both attend, underscoring the urgency of last-minute diplomatic efforts in New York. This gathering is being touted as the World Cup of Diplomacy by Guterres, reflecting the sheer volume and intensity of discussions planned. Trump and Guterres are expected to meet face-to-face for the first time since Trump's January inauguration, underscoring the high-profile nature of this event. As the globe watches these heavyweight diplomatic confrontations unfold, one must wonder, will the UN be able to rise above its bureaucratic hurdles and geopolitical gridlocks to broker peace? Or is it doomed to be a stage for grandstanding rather than meaningful change? Most importantly, how will the world's most powerful players, including Trump, use this platform? Will they choose confrontation or cooperation? These are the questions that demand your attention. What's your take on America's evolving role at the UN? And can the international community realistically navigate these crises together? Share your thoughts below, because the future of global diplomacy might just depend on it.